The colony of New Hope sat peacefully under a golden sky. The planet looked almost like Earth, with green fields and blue rivers cutting through the landscape. 50,000 people called this place home. They had traveled from Earth 15 years ago to build a new life among the stars. Children played in the streets while farmers worked in the fields. Everything seemed perfect. Commander Jack Morrison stood inside the orbital defense station high above the planet. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. 20 years in the military had taught him to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming at him that something was very wrong. 3 strange ships had appeared at the edge of the star system an hour ago. They were not answering any calls or messages. Jack watched the radar screen with growing worry. The ships were getting closer to the planet. Lieutenant Katie Wells sat at the communication desk. Her fingers moved quickly across the buttons and switches. She tried every known way to contact the strange ships. Nothing worked. They stayed silent. Jack felt his stomach tighten. He had met many alien races during his career. Some were friendly and wanted to trade. Some just wanted to be left alone. A few were dangerous. But this silence felt different. It felt like the quiet before a storm. He made his decision quickly. Better to be safe than sorry. "Sound the alarm," Jack ordered. "Get everyone into the underground shelters right now." Katie pressed the emergency button. Down on the planet below, sirens began to wail. People stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky in confusion. But the warning came too late. The 3 alien ships suddenly moved at incredible speed. They were black and smooth, shaped like sharp knives cutting through space. They ignored the small defense station completely. Instead, they dove straight toward the planet below. Bright beams of energy shot down from the ships. The beams were hot and deadly. They carved burning lines across the surface of New Hope. Buildings exploded into fire and dust. Entire neighborhoods disappeared in seconds. Jack felt like someone had punched him in the chest. He could not believe what he was seeing. "Fire back at them. Turn on our shields," he shouted. His crew scrambled to obey. But the defense station was small. It had been built to chase away pirates and small threats, not to fight a real military attack. The station's weapons were too weak and too slow. Down on the planet, Mayor Linda Crawford was helping children evacuate from the school. She was a kind woman who had been elected because everyone trusted her. Now she was trying to save as many lives as possible. The ground shook beneath her feet. A massive explosion destroyed the building 3 blocks away. Where homes had stood moments before, there was now only a smoking crater of melted ground. Children screamed in terror. Teachers tried to calm them down while pushing them toward the underground bunkers. But the alien ships were too fast. Their weapons struck everywhere at once. Linda realized with horror what was happening. These aliens were not trying to capture the colony. They were not demanding surrender. They were simply killing everyone they could find. Men, women, and children. It did not matter to them. The alien ships moved across the sky like birds of prey. They hit the farms and destroyed the crops. They hit the power stations and the water treatment plants. They hit the schools and the hospitals. Nothing was spared from their attack. Jack's defense station managed to damage one of the alien ships. Sparks flew from its dark hull. For a moment, Jack felt hope. Maybe they could fight back after all. Then the alien ships turned their attention to the station. Multiple energy beams struck at once. The shields flickered and died. The hull of the station tore open like paper. Air rushed out into space. Emergency doors slammed shut to stop the leak, but it was too late. The station was dying. Jack felt the floor tilt beneath him as the station began to fall toward the planet. He had only seconds left. He rushed to the communication console and activated the emergency broadcast system. This message would travel through space at the speed of light. It would take 4 years to reach Earth, but at least someone would know what happened here. His hands shook as he spoke into the microphone. "This is Commander Jack Morrison of New Hope Colony. We are under attack by unknown hostile aliens. They are killing everyone. They are killing the children. If anyone receives this message, please tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we fought as hard as we could. Tell them to make these monsters pay for what they have done." The transmission cut off as the station broke into pieces. Jack and his crew died as the wreckage burned up in the atmosphere. The alien ships continued their attack for 6 more hours. They were very thorough. They destroyed everything that could support human life. Every building, every farm, every machine. When they finally left, New Hope was nothing but ash and ruins. 50,000 people had lived on that planet when the sun rose that morning. By evening, they were all dead. Not a single person survived. The aliens had been efficient and merciless. The 3 black ships jumped back into hyperspace and disappeared. They left behind a dead world and the ghosts of dreams that would never come true. In the silence that followed, small fires still burned across the surface of the planet. Smoke rose into the sky. The golden sun set over fields that would never again grow food for human children. New Hope had become New Death. And somewhere far away, moving through the darkness of space at the speed of light, Jack Morrison's final message traveled toward Earth. It would take 4 long years to arrive. 4 years during which no one on Earth would know that 50,000 of their people had been murdered. But when that message finally reached home, everything would change. The aliens who had attacked New Hope thought they were simply clearing away pests. They thought humans were weak and unimportant. They believed they could kill without consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Earth would receive the message. Earth would see what had been done to its children, and Earth would respond with fury that the galaxy had never seen before. The massacre at New Hope would not be forgotten. It would not be forgiven. It would be avenged. 4 years passed before the message from New Hope reached Earth. The signal traveled through space at the speed of light, carrying its terrible news across the vast darkness between stars. When it finally arrived, everything changed. The Galactic Council had already heard about what happened at New Hope. They were a group of old alien races who made rules for the galaxy. They wrote a report about the attack and filed it away. To them, it was just another small problem. 1 human colony destroyed, nothing important. They told Earth to pay money to the aliens who had attacked them and to stop complaining. The Council did not understand humans at all. Admiral Henry Blake stood in a large meeting room in Geneva. Important leaders from every nation on Earth sat around him. The room was quiet except for the sound of Jack Morrison's final message playing on the big screen. Everyone could hear the explosions and the screams of dying people in the background. Henry was a military man. He had fought in wars and seen terrible things. But nothing had prepared him for this. His hands clenched into fists as he watched the recording for the 100th time. The aliens who did this call themselves the Vrix Dominion, Henry explained to the council members. His voice was cold and hard. They are a powerful empire with about 40 billion people living on 15 different planets. They have been taking over new territory for 100 years. President Margaret Cole was a strong woman who had led Earth through many difficult times. She leaned forward in her chair. Was our colony in their way? Is that why they attacked? No, ma'am, Henry replied. New Hope was 3 star systems away from their border. This was not about land or resources. We captured some of their communications. The Vrix saw us as insects, bugs that needed to be killed before we could spread any further. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. The Vrix had not seen humans as equals or even as enemies. They had seen humans as pests to be exterminated. They did not even try to talk to us, Henry continued. They just attacked. To them, we are too primitive and stupid to matter, and the Galactic Council agrees with them. The Council told us that we should apologize and pay the Vrix money for settling on a planet without permission. General Lisa Hayes was a fierce woman with fire in her eyes. She hit the table hard with her hand. They murdered 50,000 innocent people and we are supposed to pay them money? That is insane. The Council says we should have asked permission before building our colony, Henry said bitterly. These alien races have been traveling in space for thousands of years. They made all the rules. They think young races like us should sit down and be quiet and do what we are told. President Cole stood up slowly. She looked tired but determined. Admiral Blake, tell me about our military strength. What can we do? Henry took a deep breath. 2 years ago, I would have said we were weak. We spent all our time exploring space and building peaceful colonies. His eyes grew hard and cold, but after New Hope was destroyed, I started something called Project Warhammer. We have been stealing alien technology and making it better with human ideas. Ma'am, I think we can make the Vrix very sorry they ever attacked us. Show me what you have built. Henry pressed a button. Holographic images appeared in the air above the table. They showed sleek warships covered with powerful weapons. The ships looked deadly and beautiful at the same time. We have built a fleet, Henry said simply. 62 large warships, 200 destroyers, and 500 support ships. We have trained 400,000 men and women to crew these vessels, and we have weapons that would make the Vrix afraid if they knew about them. How long until we are ready to fight? We have been ready for 6 months, ma'am. We have just been waiting for you to give the order. President Cole looked around the table at all the leaders gathered there. She saw the same anger in every face. The same need for justice. Then I am giving the order, Admiral. No more playing nice with aliens who think we are worthless. No more following their rules. Find the Vrix home planet and teach them what happens when they kill human children. For the first time in 4 years, Henry Blake smiled. Yes, ma'am. It will be my pleasure. Over the next few weeks, Earth prepared for war. The new fleet gathered in secret locations throughout the solar system. Soldiers trained day and night. Engineers worked to make sure every weapon and every engine was perfect. The people of Earth watched the news and understood what was coming. There were some who said violence was wrong. They said Earth should try to make peace. But most people remembered the faces of the 50,000 dead colonists. Most people wanted justice. Henry stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive warship called the Retribution. The name fit perfectly. Through the window, he could see hundreds of other ships floating in formation. Each one represented Earth's fury and determination. Captain Ryan Foster walked up beside him. Ryan was a young officer with sharp eyes and quick thinking. All ships report ready, sir. We can leave whenever you give the command. How are the crews? Angry, sir. Very angry. Everyone on these ships either knew someone who died at New Hope or knows someone who did. They want payback. Good, Henry said quietly. Channel that anger, use it, but do not let it control you. We are not going to become monsters like the Vrix. We are going to fight with discipline and precision. Yes, sir. Henry looked out at the fleet one more time. For thousands of years, humans had looked up at the stars and dreamed of what was out there. They had imagined meeting friendly aliens who would teach them and help them grow. They had hoped for peace and cooperation. New Hope had taught them a harsh lesson. The galaxy was not full of friends waiting to welcome humanity. It was full of dangers, full of species who saw humans as weak and unimportant, full of empires that would kill without mercy or regret. Well, Earth had learned its lesson. Humanity would never again trust that being peaceful was enough. From now on, they would be strong. They would be ready to fight. And anyone who threatened them would pay a terrible price. Send the signal to all ships, Henry commanded. Set course for the Vrix home system. Maximum speed. Yes, sir. The fleet jumped into hyperspace all at once. Hundreds of ships disappeared in flashes of light, leaving Earth behind. They traveled through the strange realm where normal physics did not work. They moved faster than light itself, crossing distances that would take decades at normal speed. The journey to the Vrix home system took 3 weeks. During that time, the crews prepared. They ran practice drills. They checked and rechecked every system. They sharpened their skills and their weapons, and they thought about New Hope, about the children who had died, about the dreams that had been destroyed, about the message Jack Morrison had sent with his dying breath. When the human fleet finally emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Vrix home system, they were ready. Ready to fight, ready to win, ready to teach the galaxy that humanity would never again be an easy victim. The Vrix homeworld of Vraxthos hung in space like a beautiful jewel. The planet had a purple sky with swirling clouds that looked like art. 3 moons circled around it, each one covered with military bases and shipyards. This was the heart of the Vrix Empire. 15 billion of them lived on this world, protected by the biggest fleet they had ever built. High Commander Zareth stood in the command center of the main defense station above the planet. He was tall and thin with 4 arms and a body covered in hard plates like armor. His eyes were large and complex, able to see many things at once. Zareth was reviewing plans to take over more star systems. The Vrix believed they were better than other races. They thought the galaxy belonged to them and they were just taking what was rightfully theirs. High Commander, called out Sensor Officer Vrak from across the room. We are detecting something strange at the edge of our system. Multiple objects appearing from hyperspace. Zareth waved 2 of his hands dismissively. Pirates testing our defenses? Send the 4th Patrol Fleet to chase them away. Sir, the readings are very large. I count over 700 separate ships. That got Zreeth's attention. He walked quickly to the sensor station, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. The display screen showed a massive fleet appearing from hyperspace in perfect battle formation. This was not pirates. This was an invasion force. Identify them immediately, Zreeth ordered. Accessing the database now? Vrak's voice sounded nervous. Sir, they are human vessels. Human? Zreeth searched his memory. The primitives from that colony we destroyed 4 cycles ago? Impossible. They barely had technology to reach nearby stars. How could they build an invasion fleet? I do not know, sir. But the readings match human technology, and they are heading directly toward us at attack speed. Zreeth felt worry creeping into his mind for the first time in years. Raise the planetary shields. Wake up all our defense fleets, and send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we are dealing with an illegal attack. Aboard the human flagship Retribution, Admiral Henry Blake watched the Vrix defense fleets begin to move into position. The ship's bridge was filled with the latest technology, combining Earth's military knowledge with new innovations that seemed almost magical. All ships reporting ready. Admiral, said Captain Ryan Foster from his station, open a communication channel to the Vrix. Use all frequencies so everyone can hear, Henry ordered. Lieutenant Karen Moore nodded. Channel open, sir. Henry took a deep breath. What he was about to say would be heard on every Vrix ship in the system. It would be recorded and shared across the galaxy. This is Admiral Henry Blake of the Earth Defense Fleet. 4 years ago, your people attacked our colony called New Hope without any warning. You murdered 50,000 civilians, including 8,000 children. You did this because you thought we were beneath you, because you saw us as insects to be exterminated. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today we are here to teach you a lesson your species seems to have forgotten. We are here to teach you fear. The channel cut off abruptly. All ships, Henry said quietly but firmly. You are free to fire at will. Show them what humanity can do. The human fleet surged forward like a wave of metal and fire. The first attack caught the Vrix completely by surprise. Humanity had studied every battle they could find in the Galactic Council's records. They had learned from thousands of years of alien warfare, but more importantly, they had brought something new to space combat. Human creativity, human anger, human determination. Railguns fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The slugs punched through Vrix shields like they were made of paper. Missiles filled the space between ships, each one guided by smart computers that made them almost impossible to stop. And then there were the experimental weapons, the ones that made even Henry uncomfortable. The Vrix defense fleets fought bravely. They were experienced warriors who had conquered many worlds. But they had grown too confident over the centuries. They had forgotten what it was like to face an enemy who was just as advanced as they were, an enemy who wanted revenge more than anything else. High Commander Zreeth watched in horror as his fleets began to fall apart. Human ships moved with precision and purpose. They worked together perfectly, covering each other and exploiting every weakness in the Vrix formations. How are they this strong? Zreeth shouted. Intelligence reports said they were primitives. Our intelligence was 4 cycles old, Vrak replied, his voice shaking. They have advanced incredibly fast. Send more ships. Deploy everything we have. But it was not enough. Within 3 hours, the Vrix had lost control of the space around their planet. Within 6 hours, the human fleet had destroyed or disabled every orbital defense station. Zreeth's own platform was heavily damaged. Emergency systems were failing. Fires burned in multiple sections. Then Admiral Henry Blake's voice came through the speakers again. Vrix defenders, listen carefully. We have won this battle. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Your fleets are broken. We could now destroy your entire planet if we wanted to. We could do to your homeworld what you did to New Hope. Zreeth felt cold fear wash over him. His people, his entire civilization was at the mercy of these humans. But we are not like you, Henry continued. We do not murder innocent civilians. We do not kill children. So here is what will happen instead. We are going to destroy every military installation on your planet. Every base, every weapons factory, every shipyard. But we will avoid your cities. Your civilians will live. Remember that when this is over. Remember that we showed you mercy that you never showed us. The bombardment began moments later. Human ships fired precisely targeted strikes at military facilities across Vraxthos. Explosions bloomed on the surface of the planet like deadly flowers. Bases that had stood for centuries crumbled into dust. Shipyards that had built thousands of warships melted into slag. The Vrix civilians watched from their cities in terror. They saw the human fleet hanging in their sky like an angry god. They saw their military might being swept away as if it meant nothing. For the first time in their long history, the Vrix understood what it felt like to be helpless. Zreath sat in his damaged command center and finally understood what Jack Morrison must have felt in those last moments over New Hope. He understood terror. He understood the helplessness of knowing you were about to die and there was nothing you could do to stop it. But the killing blow never came. True to his word, Henry Blake avoided the civilian areas. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed Vraxthos completely, but they chose not to. They were proving they were better than the Vrix. When the bombardment finally ended 12 hours later, the military power of the Vrix Dominion had been shattered. Over 2 million military personnel were dead. Centuries of shipbuilding infrastructure was gone. The Vrix were no longer a threat to anyone. Henry Blake sat in his command chair and felt exhausted. He had not slept in 2 days. But the job was done. Justice had been served. Admiral, incoming message from the Vrix planetary government, Karen reported. They are requesting terms for surrender. Tell them we will discuss terms. But they will be our terms, not theirs. Yes, sir. Ryan approached Henry quietly. Sir, the Galactic Council is demanding we withdraw immediately. They say we have violated about 100 different laws. Henry almost laughed. Tell the Council we will talk to them when we are ready. Right now we have more important business. He looked out at Vraxthos hanging in space below, the planet that had sent the ships to destroy New Hope. The planet whose people had thought humans were worthless insects. They would never make that mistake again. No one would. News of the attack on Vraxthos spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, representatives from dozens of alien species were gathering at the Galactic Council headquarters. The council met on a neutral world called Sanctum Prime, a planet dedicated to diplomacy and peace. Ambassador Trell of the Korath Collective appeared in the center of the debate chamber. The Korath were beings made of pure energy who had been part of the council for over 10,000 years. Trell's voice echoed through the room with barely hidden anger. The humans have committed an unprecedented act of aggression. They attacked a sovereign world. They destroyed military assets worth trillions of credits. They killed over 2 million Vrix personnel. This cannot be allowed to stand. Councillor Mira of the Elysian Commonwealth spoke up. The Elysians were a peaceful race who valued justice above all else. Perhaps we should first discuss why the humans felt they needed to take such action. The records clearly show that the Vrix started this conflict by destroying the human colony of New Hope. That was a minor colonial dispute, hissed High Diplomat Vrex of the Vrix Dominion. Even through the translation device, the hatred in his voice was clear. We had every right to clear that system. The humans had not registered their settlement with the Council. They were trespassing on territory we had marked for expansion. They were 4 light years from your border, Mira pointed out calmly. And you only filed your claim 30 cycles ago. The humans had settled there decades before you expressed any interest in that region. That is irrelevant, Rex snapped. They are primitives. Newcomers who need to learn their place in the galactic order. Their place, a new voice echoed through the chamber. Everyone turned to see Admiral Henry Blake walking in, flanked by 2 human marines in heavy armor. Our place is wherever we choose to stand, and if anyone tries to push us around, we will push back harder. You have no right to be here, human, Ambassador Trell said, his energy form flickering with indignation. This is a closed council session. Only member species are allowed, and yet here I am. Henry stopped in the center of the chamber, directly facing the Vrix diplomat. You wanted to discuss humanity's actions? Fine, let us discuss them. But let us also discuss the fact that the Vrix murdered 50,000 civilians, and your council's response was to tell us to pay them money. The rules of colonization are very clear, Trell began. I do not care about your rules, Henry interrupted. The chamber erupted in shocked protests. No one interrupted a council elder like that. Henry raised his voice to be heard over the noise. Your rules were written by species who have been playing this game for thousands of years. You set up a system that benefits the old powers and keeps newcomers like us in our place. Well, we are not playing by your rules anymore. The chamber exploded with arguments and protests from multiple species. Through the chaos, Henry's voice cut through like a knife. You want to know why we hit the Vrix so hard? Because we needed to send a message, not just to them, but to every species in this galaxy who thinks humanity is weak, who thinks we are primitives who can be pushed around or killed whenever it is convenient. He turned slowly, making eye contact with representatives from many different worlds. We are not weak. We are not going to bow down and accept whatever scraps you decide to give us. And if any other species decides to test us the way the Vrix did, they will learn the same painful lesson. This is outrageous, Rex sputtered. We demand justice. We demand that the humans pay for what they have done to our world. Henry smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You want justice? All right. We can discuss terms, but they will be our terms, not yours. What followed was 6 hours of intense negotiation. Admiral Henry Blake laid out humanity's demands, and he did not back down, even when the council members protested. The Vrix would formally apologize for the New Hope massacre. They would pay money to the families of every victim. They would give 3 star systems to human control as a buffer zone, and most importantly, they would sign a treaty promising they would never again attack human settlements. Unacceptable, Vrex hissed. We will never agree to such humiliation. Then we will go back to Vraxthos and finish what we started, Henry said simply. We showed mercy before. We can change our minds. Your choice. The room fell silent. Everyone knew Henry was not bluffing. The human fleet was still in orbit around Vraxthos. One word from Admiral Blake and the Vrix homeworld would burn. Vrex looked around the chamber, hoping for support from other species. But no one spoke up. The Korath avoided his gaze. The other military powers stayed quiet. They had all seen what humanity could do when provoked. None of them wanted to be next. In the end, the Vrix agreed to everything. They had no other choice. Their fleet was destroyed. Their defenses were in ruins. And the human ships remained in their sky as a constant reminder of how quickly their superiority had crumbled. But the negotiations had effects far beyond just the Vrix surrender. Every species in the council chamber was watching. Every species was reassessing their opinion of humanity. Some, like Counselor Mira and the Elysians, saw humans as potential allies. Here was a species with the courage to challenge the established order, a species that valued justice and was willing to fight for it. Others, like Ambassador Trell and the Korath, saw humans as dangerous upstarts, a threat to the stability that had existed for thousands of years. They began making plans to limit human expansion and influence, but all of them, without exception, saw humanity differently than they had before. The weak primitives who barely knew how to build starships had become a military power that could challenge established empires. After the formal negotiations ended, several species approached Admiral Blake privately. The Elysian Commonwealth offered an alliance. The Torvax Republic suggested trade agreements. Even some of the neutral species expressed interest in better relations with Earth. Henry listened to all of them carefully. He was polite but firm. Humanity was not looking for masters or protectors. They were looking for equals. We will consider all offers, Henry told each representative. But understand this. Earth will not be anyone's junior partner. We will not follow orders from species who think they know better than us. If you want to work with humanity, it will be as equals or not at all. Some of the aliens were offended by this attitude. They thought humans were being arrogant and ungrateful. But others understood. They had seen what happened when someone pushed humanity too far. They decided it was better to have humans as friends than as enemies. As the council session finally ended, Henry walked out of the chamber with his head held high. He had come here expecting to be lectured and threatened. Instead, he had dictated terms and made it clear that humanity would not be intimidated. On his way out, he passed by the Vrix diplomat Vrex. The alien glared at him with pure hatred. This is not over, human, Vrex said quietly. You have made enemies today. Powerful enemies. Henry stopped and looked at the Vrix diplomat. We made enemies the day you murdered our children at New Hope. The only difference is that now you know we can fight back. Remember that feeling of watching your world burn, Vrex? Remember that we could have killed everyone on your planet but chose not to. We are not monsters like you. He walked away, leaving the Vrix diplomat speechless. Outside the council building, Captain Ryan Foster was waiting with the shuttle. How did it go, sir? Better than expected, Henry replied. The Vrix agreed to everything, and several other species want to talk about alliances. So we won? Henry looked up at the stars visible in Sanctum Prime's evening sky. We won this battle, but the war for respect and recognition in this galaxy is just beginning. At least now everyone knows we are not to be trifled with. The shuttle lifted off, carrying Admiral Blake back to the Retribution and the fleet waiting above. Below, in the council chambers, alien representatives continued their discussions late into the night. The topic was no longer whether humanity mattered. The topic was what to do now that humanity had proven it did. 6 months after the Battle of Raxthos, Admiral Henry Blake stood on the observation deck of Unity Station. The massive new space station floated at the edge of the New Hope system. Through the large windows, he could see construction crews working to rebuild the colony on the planet below. This time, the settlement would be heavily defended. A permanent military fleet would protect it always. Captain Ryan Foster walked up beside him carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee from Earth, not the artificial stuff they had been drinking during the war. Thought you could use this. Sir, Ryan said, handing over one of the cups. Thanks. Henry took a sip and enjoyed the bitter taste. It reminded him of home. How is the new fleet shakedown going? Very smooth. The new recruits are eager, maybe too eager. Half of them want to go find another alien species to fight just to prove themselves. Henry chuckled darkly. I cannot blame them. We spent decades being told we were the new kids who needed to sit down and shut up. It feels good to stand tall for once, it does, Ryan agreed. But I have been thinking, sir. What happens now? We won this fight, but we made enemies. The Vrix hate us. The Korath do not trust us. Half the council thinks we are dangerous warmongers. They are not wrong, Henry said. We are dangerous. That is the whole point. For too long, humanity tried to make friends in the galaxy by being nice, by following rules we had no part in writing, by accepting that we were somehow lesser, just because we only recently figured out faster than light. Travel. He turned to face Ryan. The Vrix taught us a hard lesson at New Hope. They taught us that being nice gets you killed in this galaxy. Being strong, being willing to fight, that is what earns respect. So what is our strategy going forward? Henry gestured to the ships being built in the orbital construction yards. Sleek new designs that used everything humanity had learned from the Vraxthos campaign. We keep building. We keep exploring. We establish new colonies, but we defend them properly this time. And if anyone threatens us again, we hit them so hard they will think twice about ever saying the word human. The Council will not like that approach. I do not care what the Council likes. Henry's expression turned cold. They had their chance to stand up for us when the Vrix attacked. Instead, they told us to pay money to our attackers. They made their position clear. Humanity does not matter to them, so from now on we look after ourselves. A priority message indicator flashed on the wall panel. Ryan moved to answer it, then his eyes widened. Sir, you need to see this immediately. The message was from Ambassador Claire Rodriguez, humanity's newly appointed representative to the Galactic Council. Her face appeared on the screen. She looked both excited and concerned at the same time. Admiral Blake, I am sending this on secure channels. 3 species have approached me with a proposal. The Elysian Commonwealth, the Torvax Republic, and the Neridian Expanse want to form a new coalition separate from the main council power structure. They are calling it the Alliance of Free Worlds, and they want humanity to be a founding member. Henry raised an eyebrow with interest. What is the catch? The catch is that they want us specifically because of what we did at Vraxthos. They are tired of being pushed around by old powers like the Korath and the Vrix. They see us as proof that it is possible to stand up to the established order and win. Claire paused. Sir, this could be huge. These are not primitive species. They are established civilizations with significant resources and territory. If we can build an alliance with them, humanity will not be isolated anymore. We will have real power in galactic politics. Henry looked out at the stars, thinking about Jack Morrison and the 50,000 souls who had died at New Hope. They had paid the price for humanity's innocence, for the belief that being peaceful and diplomatic would be enough to protect them. Never again. Tell them we are interested, Henry said finally, but make it absolutely clear that we are not looking for protectors or patrons. We are looking for equals, species who will stand with us because we stand with them. And if this alliance is going to work, it has to be built on one principle. No member species gets pushed around. Not by the Council, not by empires like the Vrix, not by anyone. I will convey your terms, sir. The transmission ended. Henry turned back to the viewport. Earth hung in the distance, a small blue marble that held 8 billion humans who would never again accept being treated as lesser beings. New dawn. New rules, Ryan said quietly. Exactly. Henry raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. The old powers had thousands of years to shape the galaxy their way. Now it is our turn, and we are going to do things very differently. Over the next few weeks, the Alliance of Free Worlds began to take shape. The Elysians brought their advanced medical technology and their commitment to justice. The Torvax contributed their industrial might and their extensive trade networks. The Neridians offered their scientific knowledge and their exploration expertise. And humanity brought its military strength and its unwillingness to back down from any challenge. Together, they represented billions of individuals across dozens of star systems. They were not as large or as old as the traditional council powers, but they were united by a common cause. They were tired of being told what to do by species who thought age gave them the right to rule. Admiral Blake traveled to the Alliance's first summit meeting held on a neutral station. Representatives from all 4 founding species gathered to write the charter that would govern their cooperation. We need to make something clear from the start, Henry told the assembly. This alliance cannot just be about protecting ourselves. It has to be about changing how the galaxy works. The old system is broken. It favors the ancient species and exploits the younger ones. We need to build something better. Counselor Mira of the Elysians nodded in agreement. What do you propose? Equal representation. Equal voice. No species gets to make decisions for others just because they have been around longer. If a civilization can travel the stars and maintain its independence, it deserves a seat at the table. Henry looked around at the gathered representatives, and we need to make it clear that we will defend any member who is threatened, just like we would defend our own worlds. The debate that followed lasted for days. But in the end, they reached an agreement. The Alliance of Free Worlds would be based on principles of equality, mutual defense, and respect for sovereignty. Any species could apply to join regardless of age or power, as long as they agreed to the core values. Word of the alliance spread quickly. Within months, 5 more species applied for membership. Within a year, it had grown to 12 members. The traditional powers of the Galactic Council watched with growing concern as their monopoly on galactic politics began to crack. Back at Unity Station, construction on the New Hope colony was nearly complete. The first families were preparing to move back to the world that had been taken from them. This time, they would live under the protection of orbital defense platforms, ground-based weapons, and a fleet that never left the system. Henry stood at the memorial that had been built to honor the 50,000 who died in the first attack. Their names were carved into a wall of black stone, lit by an eternal flame. Children who would never grow up. Parents who would never see their kids again. Dreams that had been burned away by alien hatred. We did it, Ryan said softly, standing beside him. We made them pay. We made sure it will never happen again. We did, Henry agreed. But the price was too high. 50,000 lives. That is a debt we can never truly repay. So what do we do now? Henry looked up at the sky where stars were beginning to appear as the sun set. We make sure their deaths meant something. We make sure that no other human colony ever suffers the same fate. We build humanity into a power that no one dares to challenge. He turned to Ryan. And we help other species who are facing the same threats we faced. We use our strength to protect not just ourselves but anyone who needs it. The old powers will fight us, let them. Henry's expression was hard but determined. We have already proven we can win. And we have allies now, real allies who share our values. Together we are strong enough to change the galaxy. As night fell over New Hope, lights began to come on in the new buildings. Life was returning to a world that had been dead. Hope was being reborn from ashes and pain. Across the galaxy, in the halls of the Galactic Council and the command centers of a dozen empires, military planners were updating their threat assessments. A new phrase was spreading through diplomatic channels and military briefings alike. Do not provoke the humans. It was a lesson written in fire and blood, a lesson purchased at the cost of 50,000 innocent lives and 2 million Vrick soldiers. But it was a lesson that would protect billions more in the years to come. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through diplomacy or submission, but through the willingness to stand up and fight for what was theirs. They had proven that being young did not mean being weak, that being new to the galactic stage did not mean accepting whatever treatment the old powers decided to give, and they would never back down. Again, the stars shone down on new hope as Admiral Henry Blake made a silent promise to the 50,000 names carved on the memorial wall. Your deaths will not be forgotten. Your sacrifice will not be wasted.